This is my Sharp PC-G850 VS, and one of the nice things you can do with this is, in the assembler mode, you've got PIC. So you've got a PIC assembler and loader. So it programs these chips, the 16F84A, and I think it does the 16F84 as well. But of course, in order to program, you do need a programmer, and I've got this one here, which was a circuit that I found on the internet, and it plugs in the 11-pin connector there. Now, at the moment in the text editor, I've got a minimal loop program, so that just whizzes around a loop, doesn't do anything at all really, pretty useless. But if I put that in the programmer, so the chip's gone in there, and we go to assembler, PIC, assemble, one word, which is just a jump, you can then load it. So that's now programmed in the chip. So of course that's pretty useless, having that program. But what I also have in the files is a test program, and this is one that comes out of the English version of a manual that someone's done on the internet. So if we now go to the assembler, oh no, it's the wrong assembler, PIC assembler, and assemble that, there's 16 words, and these are more interesting words. They actually do something. So if we put that in there, so this is a different program being programmed, so in order to do that and program it, it has to have erased the chip. So it's not just a loader, it is an eraser and loader as well. So the interesting thing that that program does is it flashes an LED, but obviously you need a circuit for that. So I've got this here, which is just a simple circuit with an LED, a reset button, a crystal and so on. So it's a sort of minimal system for the PIC16F84. So this is another 11-pin adapter board, but it's got an interposer here which I made, which has just got some protection resistors on the digital lines in case you do something silly. So if you do accidentally put the PIC the wrong way round, then I do know from experience that it shorts the supply out and the machine loses everything it's got in it. But I haven't protected those lines, so it's just if something silly happens on the digital lines if you're driving an output to an output. So you can see that the program, if I reset it and hold it in reset, stops and it starts again, flashes an LED, which is what the program does. So that's programming a 16F84A on the Sharp PC-G850 VS using this this board here. Now I had to modify the circuit a bit. I had a 13-volt Zener and I had put a 12 in. In fact, I have two boards. One's got a 13-volt Zener, that's the one on top, and this one, it's got a 12-volt, and I'm having problems with the 13-volt, so I think 12 is probably the value to go with on that diode. It's the programming voltage of the PIC, which it says in the datasheet 12 to 14 volts, but this thing comes out with a 13-volt Zener at sort of 13.5, 13.8 I think I measured, which is pretty close to 14, so I dropped it down to 12. The Zener is 12, but the actual voltage that's applied is more like 12.5, and that seems more reliable. I have had a lot of problems, huge number of problems programming the PIC16F84. I've got these here, and these are all broken due to being blown up on my PIC-Kit 4, which is the microchip programmer. So PIC-Kit 3 works, PIC-Kit 4 just blows up. So I destroyed all these while I've been fiddling around with programmers and so on. But now I've bought a new set. I've got a few here, and I seem to be able to reliably program them now on here as long as I use the 12-volt Zener version of the board. I have also found that there are a few other chips. What we got here, this is actually a PIC16F628 here, and I found that it will actually program that. I can demonstrate, which is useful because the PIC16F84 is getting a bit expensive. The more modern chips are considerably cheaper. So if I put that in there, that's a let's just check. Yeah, that is a 16F628. And what I found is if you go and use the loader and program it, it's fine. It's perfectly happy because it's a very similar chip. But what I've also found, unfortunately, is that it doesn't seem to run the test program. So I'm not really sure why at the moment. It may be possible to get around that somehow. I mean, you could. I mean, this is really very simple interface. You could, if you wanted to, write a new program and load that into the Sharp and then use that with newer chips, but that would involve quite a lot of programming. So if I put that in there, this is the 628, 16F628. You can see the light doesn't go on, it stays on, which I think means it's programmed it as an output, but maybe there's an oscillator problem or something. I haven't really looked at it. I just had a look to see if it would program a few different chips. I bought a few different types. I think it also programs the 16F1827, I think it was. What have I got here? No, they're all F84s. So there are at least a couple of chips that it will program, which don't work too well. So I need to investigate that and see if they can be used, because they're a lot cheaper. Much cheaper. But in the meantime, I'm quite happy that I've got a programmer for the Sharp, which turns it into quite a nice little machine if you want a 16F84, which coincidentally I did want one a while back. But there we go. Yellow flashing light.